Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this first industry meet for aerospace in Morocco, organized in compliance with the requirements of social distancing imposed by COVID-19. We will be hearing from different actors, public and private. We will look at the history of this important sector of the Moroccan economy, take stock of the past, and look at the lessons learned in this 2020 year. A year full of challenges, a year full of innovation and resilience. We will see together how this cutting-edge technology has been able to make the most of these difficult times, while nonetheless projecting itself into a future which seems much more positive. We are delighted to welcome the Honorable Moulay Hafid El Alami, Minister of Industry, Trade and the Green and Digital Economy, Mr. Karim Sheikh, President of the JIMAS. A first reaction, Honorable Minister. How do you see the emergence of this sector in Morocco over the last 20 years? Well, thank you. Welcome one, welcome all to this industry meet for the aerospace industry. We are delighted to be able to stay in touch despite the pandemic, and praise be to God, Morocco is doing quite well thanks to the vision of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI. May God assist him. The royal vision for the aeronautics industry has borne fruit. We have seen when nobody believed in the capacity of the kingdom to be an important actor in the aeronautical sector. Well, private sectors aligned with the royal vision have spared no effort to create this sector. Brick by brick, we were able to create a leading industry sector, which is an engine of economic growth in the kingdom. When you're present in this sector, whatever the revenue or contribution, the fact that you are present in this sector is already a success. The Kingdom of Morocco was able to establish itself as a credible actor with a clear and transparent program, and Morocco is now at the table, and I believe, as you will be able to see in this meeting. Yes, we will be looking at this in more detail. We understand that Morocco has become an international platform, and the kingdom has become an important international actor recognized abroad, as we can see by the presence of important multinationals, including Boeing. And we will now hear from the Executive Vice President of the Boeing Company, Mr. Standil.
Here at Boeing, we are very proud of our long-standing partnership with the Kingdom of Morocco, a relationship that stretches back over 5 decades. In 2001, we worked together to create one of the first players in the Moroccan aviation industry as we joined forces with Safran and Royal Air Maroc to create Matisse Aerospace. This joint venture aligned well with the bold vision of His Majesty King Mohammed VI to position Morocco as a global aviation player. The strong support and the commitment explain why the local aerospace sector has expanded over this past 20 years, growing from around 10 companies to nearly 140 and annual turnover of $1.7 billion in exports. Building on our commitment to the aerospace ecosystem in Morocco and the highly skilled workforce there, we entered into an MOU with the Kingdom in 2016. This MOU has proven to be a great success as we have added 11 suppliers, including 2 suppliers to Boeing. One of these suppliers, TDM, is the first Moroccan-owned aerospace supplier, a great achievement in a highly competitive aerospace industry. These early successes have demonstrated that the Kingdom of Morocco is a best value country that sets it apart from many. We believe that together we can address challenges in global aviation and support the long-term growth objectives of Morocco and at Boeing. Thank you for your partnership, and we look forward to building a stronger future together.
Another important player who wanted to express their trust in Morocco is Safran through its CEO Olivier Andreas. Welcome. Safran has made the choice of Morocco over the last 20 years. We employ 3,300 people over 8 sites. We are the main actor in aeronautics in Morocco and contribute to the development of this strategic sector for the kingdom. Like the entire aviation industry, we have been going through a period of economic turbulence for the past year, but at no time did we question this strategic choice. What is Morocco's strength for a group like Safran? First and foremost, it is the quality of its workforce and its talented executives. It is its proactive industrial strategy and its favorable framework for foreign investors. It is its quality infrastructure and its proximity to Europe and to France. And it is also the constant support we have had from the public authorities. Morocco is a partner with high added value in the global map of our establishments. This is why we are actively investing in training, in partnership with the Moroccan state, with manufacturers and with universities. Whether it is the Casablanca Aeronautical Training Institution, which we have helped to create, or our agreements with Moroccan universities and engineering schools. You will understand that we want to support the move upmarket of the Moroccan aeronautical industry. Our history with Morocco is that of a long-term partnership. Thank you.
Merci.
Long-term partnership in Morocco is a high added value partner, said the boss of Safran. Honorable Minister, we can understand that the strength of Morocco is its skill set. Yes, for those who did not know it, Safran produces plane engines, which is the most complex element in the industrial world. And Safran produces engine parts in Morocco. I believe the aeronautical sector in Morocco showcases Morocco's excellent skill set and the excellent work made by its engineers and line managers. Morocco today has, I believe, 142 companies in the aeronautical sector: Boeing, Airbus, Safran, Hexcel, that we will probably see later, which builds composite materials, as well as Spirit, which has taken over Bombardier. Some people have said a bit quickly that Bombardier would disappear, but it has been taken over by Spirit Aerosystems. And we have, as was said, moved upmarket. This is a crucial element. I would say even that any commercial plane flying today across the globe carries at least one part made in Morocco. I believe, and my conviction is that we have a presence in every plane flying in the world today, and that is an important element for us Moroccans, and we should be proud of this dedication, of this move up market, this daily work, non-stop, does provide results. And I believe that once a year we should take stock and be proud, and tomorrow we will roll up our sleeves and get back to work.
Et nous avons le droit de nous arrêter une fois par an pour être fiers, et le lendemain on se retroussera les manches pour aller encore plus loin.
Yes, indeed, Airbus, which produces many of its parts here in Morocco, and we will now hear from the president of Airbus Middle East and Africa.
Nous sommes très fiers
We are very proud of our partnership with Morocco and our relationships with the Kingdom, which has always and will continue to play an important role in the development of the aerospace sector in Africa. Airbus is one of the pioneers in Morocco, and we were one of the first investors in the sector. We are an important industrial partner through Stella Aerospace. The country produces parts for all Airbus programs, including the A320, A350, and the A500M. Simply said, there is made in Morocco parts in all our families. Made in Morocco is also an ecosystem settled in Morocco for whom Airbus is the main customer. An ecosystem which generates thousands of direct and indirect jobs and generates important, crucial export revenues. Aerospatial industry creates social and economic growth, and I would like to hail the efforts of the Moroccan government in this field. The continuous investment bears testimony to its desire to promote the industry and promote skill set and promote jobs. We are fully committed in this sector for a prosper and mutual beneficial future.
Industrie pour un futur prospère et mutuellement bénéfique avec le Maroc.
We have therefore heard from the big players who have told us of their interest for the industry in Morocco. We will now take stock of the situation. So where do we stand today in the aeronautic sector in the first quarter of 2021? We will hear from Afaf Saidi. Welcome. You are the Director of Aeronautic Department. Awira Zaida, you are General Director of Matisse. And right behind me, Mr. Alice Dehi, General Secretary for the Industry. And I will turn to you first. To your mind, what were the contributions to the Industrial Acceleration Plan, IAP, in the Kingdom? Well, the IAP 2014-2020 completes the other industrial strategies before it, and a turning point was reached with the quality of the public and private partnership, which has given a new life to performing ecosystems. This is the structuring of an industrial fabric in line with the different stakes, which allows for the densification of value chains and the creation of the missing links in this value chain. In the aeronautic system, it was very aligned with our objectives. We had a first growth based on opportunity, which created a critical mass of operators, and the IAP created some coherence in the sector by creating multiple performing ecosystems. We have today 5 of them, which were built with our professional partners. The assembly, building the structures, machine pieces. The EWIS ecosystem, when it comes to concerning the building of harnesses. The RMO pertaining to maintenance, and the engineering ecosystem, which ties all the others together and is crucial to the development of all this sector, high-tech sector. The last ecosystem is the Boeing ecosystem, which was launched by His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, which confirms the maturity of the Moroccan aeronautic platform. And today, 2016, a crowning achievement has placed Morocco strategically at the heart of the value chains in the sector, with both our historic partners as well as the United States of America, which have a very strong supply chain in Asia, and means that we now have a mature technological platform.
Ce qui nous met maintenant au cœur des échanges internationaux et qui nous permet de disposer d'une plateforme aéronautique mature technologiquement.
Thank you very much. We now turn to Hafaf Saidi. How did this structuring of the aeronautic system take place, and what are the key indicators? Well, the ecosystems created as part of the IAP have enabled to attract a strong local value chain and build capacity in harnesses, maintenance, aerostructures, aeronautical equipment, precision machining, surface treatment, metal machining, engineering, which developed and has enabled the sector to take off. The sectors implemented provide for a coherence between the different production families, and the plane that you see before you illustrates very well the diversity and multitude of parts that are made in Morocco. And when it comes to taking stock, the AIP has been quite the success, with export revenue having grown by more than 90%. We went from $0.9 billion to $1.7 billion in over 5 years. The IAP has always also generated 75% more jobs. We've gone from 10,000 jobs to 17,500 jobs in 2019, with many women employed. 40% of the employees in this sector are women. And over the same period, 42 companies were created. And finally, in terms of local integration, it has more than doubled from 17 to 38% in 2019, knowing that we have far exceeded the target of 35%.
En 2015, lors du démarrage du PAI, à 38% en 2019, sachant que ce taux d'intégration, donc nous avons largement dépassé l'objectif qu'on s'est assigné dans le cadre du PAI, qui était de 35% fin 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Afaf Saidi. I'd like to return now to go back to some of this data which ends in 2019. What about 2020, a year of crisis? How has the ecosystem responded over the last year?
Alors, nous avons eu le plaisir et
Well, we had the honor and privilege of discovering that 2020 on the world stage was particularly difficult, but in Morocco we were able to dampen the shock. When it comes to local integration, we had an objective of 35% of local integration, and we have achieved 38% last year. So that's the local integration rate, which is very important. As you can imagine, 38% of a plane complete being built in Morocco, that is quite rare. Developed countries do much less, as they subcontract a lot, and other developing countries do less. Yes, because they don't have the expertise to produce locally the different parts. Yes, absolutely. Everyone's got their own strategy. Morocco has a double strategy, a capacity to make parts, but also to assemble them. When it comes to the companies, we've seen many companies which went bankrupt, which closed their doors in Morocco. We had 142 companies, and all of them are still there. None have had to close over the pandemic period. And if you look at the jobs, we lost 10% of jobs in this sector, where in the world stage we've lost more than 43% of jobs. So we took the most conservative estimates for the world. We've seen figures of 50% or more, but the lowest was 43%, and Morocco's lost only 10%. When it comes to revenues now, the export revenue, it's dropped by 29% over 2020. It was 50% on the same period in the world. So I like to say this. When you look at the figures on the right, okay, we've lost some peoples, we've lost jobs. But when I look at the world variation, I feel much better. Now, the future is very interesting. What's crucial in this pandemic period, you must know that the aeronautics industry was fully hit. When planes don't take off, there are multiple effects. First effect, nobody buys new planes. You can't buy planes when you're parking them around the globe. Secondly, these planes not flying do not use spare parts or maintenance or replacement parts. So, on the world stage, this stoppage has had a huge impact across the sector all over the world, but Morocco has been very resilient. In this pandemic period, we have received international investors, and we have been working on extending their investments and their sites in Morocco, which I believe Morocco now is in a position to emerge stronger than before the pandemic. That is our conviction today, and I believe that the private sector also believes in this. Yes, the period is difficult, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and investors are thinking of Morocco.
Je crois qu'elle est partagée par les opérateurs économiques. Nous passons tous une période difficile, mais nous voyons le bout du tunnel et nous commençons à percevoir des gens, des opérateurs qui veulent optimiser leurs investissements et qui pensent au Maroc avant de penser à rien.
So, do you think we will still have enough energy to take off quickly? Yes, we will. Let's hear now from one of these operators who is participating in this sector. Zahira Bouda, you are the president of Matisse. Could you tell us more about Matisse, that has been present 20 years now in Morocco? Yes, indeed. Matisse Aerospace was created in 2001 by Airbus Safran. And in this creation, at the inception of the aeronautical sector, we build electrical harnesses for Boeing, Airbus, and Dassault. For planes, but we also create harnesses for jet engines for Safran. Across the years, and thanks to the support of the Moroccan institutional partners and private international partners, we have developed an operational excellency which has allowed us to be recognized by the end customer and our most important suppliers, and specifically on quality and compliance with delays. This performance is also tied to our human capital, which has been in a position to develop an excellent expertise in engineering, which we are very proud of. Our success is the result of young and talented Moroccan teams, very committed, and an important feminine presence at all levels of the ecosystem. I am very proud to be at the head of a company that has contributed so much to the development of the aeronautic system in Morocco and hosts so many Moroccan talents.
Et aussi qui œuvre pour la promotion des jeunes talents marocains, femmes et hommes.
Yes, we'll see. We'll hear a bit more about this later. So, that was taking stock. Now, let's look at the leading decisions which have allowed the aeronautical sector to develop in Morocco.
Au Maroc, et on revient tout de suite avec nos invités.
So these important measures include the private-public partnerships, PPPs, the skill set and human resources, and the infrastructure. The minister is still with us, as well as Karim Sheikh and Mr. Sidi Ahmed Ben Brahim, president of the Mead Park. Let's return quickly to these PPP, public-private partnerships, one of the keys of the success of the aeronautical ecosystem in Morocco. What does this mean in practice? Well, there's much to be said about PPPs, but I would like to start by saying that the clear vision as highlighted by the Honourable Minister and the professionals and the GMAS is this vision, this ambition, which have allowed us to integrate so quickly the closed environment of aerospace suppliers. Morocco, from the start, believed in an industrial development strategy, not just outsourcing, but a co-localization. We spoke of human resources, well-trained human resources, which has allowed the ecosystem to take its place on the world stage by its quality and its performance. The industrial acceleration plan, as we mentioned, has been our guiding thread throughout, as this plan was based on much serious work with the teams of the Ministry of Industry, which led to the structuring logic of ecosystems which are properly organized, and the revenues have clearly shown that we have chosen the right approach. We have commitments. We committed ourselves to reaching these objectives, which we have actually exceeded, and we will have over new objectives during the recovery. Our partnership, I'd be happy to share multiple messages of congratulations, but the most important ones are our industrial clients who have, by their orders, recognized the high quality of Morocco, which creates an environment which attracts even more investment, a more welcoming environment for investment. And we are communicating actively, and we are present in all the trade fairs with our partnership of the Agency for Investment. We also accompany our SMEs in aeronautical performance through the Morocco SME program. But beyond all this, we also need to provide better control for the environment outside our factories. You have to be on time, but you're also judged on the logistics system, just to show how well our system works. So trucks leave Casablanca on Friday night, made in Morocco, and these parts are on the assembly line in Toulouse in France on Monday morning. Air freight covers Europe and the US. So this is a very good example of a global partnership. This requires constant work, and we have the Aero Team Morocco working very hard. We are winning, but we will continue to work very hard. We are preparing today. We are doubling our efforts as we believe the recovery will be very strong. And yes, it seems to be rather imminent, and we need to be ready when it comes to human resources.
Team Maroc, Aero Team Maroc, c'est une équipe qui gagne, et le continuera à gagner. On ne lâchera rien. Et je suis certain qu'il y a encore de très très belles choses à faire. Et on se prépare aujourd'hui, on redouble d'efforts pour être prêt, parce que la reprise, elle risque d'être très très forte, donc on s'y prépare déjà.
Et imminente, a priori, être prêt également sur le terrain de la formation.
Mr. Ben Brahim, president of the Aeronautic Training Institute. So, how do you see the needs on the sector?
De répondre aux besoins en compétences du secteur.
Well, I believe that when you commit to such an adventure, you must ask yourself what is it you're trying to do. We need to ask how we can provide sustainable solutions. This is a long-term vision which is aligned with His Majesty's vision, and the DNA of this industry is innovation and talent. Industries, when they settle in Morocco, what do they need? They need competences or talent and the best conditions possible to hit the ground running. So we have developed the IMA, which has enabled the existence of this aero system and is the fruit of outstanding partnership between the Minister of Industry, Ministry of Education, as well as private sector partners to create a vocational training institute which produces skill sets that are required by the industry and is also a booster for the value, both for industry but also for these young people to be competitive on the world stage. It is also for them a facilitating factor which is aligned with industry need. We do this for aeronautics, but also for other industries, and this is high value industry, and the IMA is part of this global vision and is immersed in the ecosystem, and it provides tailor-made vocational training solutions. A new companies need new skills all the time. So, yes, we have to adapt. In the aeronautic, they are constantly innovating and improving and driving qualities, and we have partnerships with academia. In particular, the Euro-Mediterranean University of Fez, the Polytechnic University in Ben Guerir, with whom we have signed a management training agreement. So this is a permanent effort to allow human resources to be aligned with this move up market.
Polytechnique Mohamed VI, avec qui nous avons encore signé récemment un accord dans le middle management. Et c'est un effort permanent de permettre aux ressources humaines d'être en phase avec cette montée en compétences qui a été évoqué tout à l'heure par les équipes de M. le ministre.
Alors, les jeunes talents dont vous parlez, on en a une.
So you're speaking of the young talents with us. We have a representative with us, Asma Usus. What does it mean for you to do your vocational training with IMA, and why did you choose IMA? Good afternoon. Well, first, after high school, I joined IMA, thanks to which I was able to join the aeronautical industry, which I'm very proud of. I'm passionate about it, and thanks to this training, I was able to get skills and technical competences, and on the personal level, I also learned important life skills: transparency, traceability, precision, many important values of the aeronautical system are now integrated into my personal life. And when I heard that there was a new vocational training being offered, I decided to return to the IMA to perfect my skills and also go further in my career, as thanks to aeronautics I am able to build my future, and I really strongly believe in the aeronautical industry and its development in Morocco.
Secteur aéronautique et à son développement au Maroc.
Thank you for sharing this and sharing your energy with us. Mr. Mban, you're also president of Meat Park, which is a crucial lever for the development of aeronautical industry in Morocco, with many international actors. And this industrial park is unique to Morocco.
Au Maroc, quelles en sont les caractéristiques?
Yes, indeed. Meat Park is one of the key factors in the success in Morocco. What we did was respond to industrial needs. What do they need? First, they need to operate quickly. They might take 5, 6, 10, even maybe 17 years before coming to Morocco. But as soon as they arrive, they have to be able to operate. So we implemented with our public sector partners and an exceptional partnership, an integrated industrial platform dedicated to the aeronautical industry. We need important players, Stelia, Spirit, Hexel, and others, which gather around them a constellation of suppliers, like a flagship with a flotilla. They build the land, they build their building, and Meat Park also supports them, and as well as supports their SME suppliers and help them with funding and will help them build. And all this in an excellent park with high added architectural value, and we support these industrial actors by facilitating their business while they are starting to work in their workshops. And this is unique to Morocco. They go across the road to recruit the skill sets that they need, and we build for them also this vocational training institute. And the presence today of Stelia, Hexel, leader in composite materials, Spirit Aerosystem, the premier aerostructure producer in the world. We're also focused on optic fiber, printed electronics, which is also a very promising sector. If I may conclude, if today we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the aeronautic system in Morocco, we need to ask ourselves, what's the recipe? What's the winning recipe, and why can't we share this? The winning recipe is that we were able to work together. And when I say together, that covers the state, the Ministry of Industry, professional and vocational training, the different departments of the Ministry of Finance, the government investment funds. We were able to work together to build a project which is much bigger than any single individual. It is a team effort, and we worked together focusing on quality. And what's important is that progressively we have moved upmarket and acquired competence, skill sets, and cultural compatibility with the major players. And I would like to salute all the efforts by all the young people who are working in this sector. And just like the young lady whom we have just heard of, and we are very proud of them.
Et je voudrais ici rendre hommage à l'ensemble des jeunes. L'ensemble des jeunes qui travaillent dans ce secteur, qui sont autour de 17-18 000 aujourd'hui, comme la jeune femme que vous avez vue, et qui, grâce à eux, qui délivrent tous les jours, et c'est ça notre fierté. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben Brahim. We will now we'll focus on the operations with the implementation of integration and diversification and the deployment of new ecosystem. These strategies attract new names such as Spirit, who has decided to take over Bombardier operations in Morocco. We will now hear from Mr. Scott McClarty.
Hi, my name is Scott McClarty and I'm the Senior Vice President of Spirit Aerosystems. Spirit Aerosystems is one of the biggest providers of aerostructures in the world. Number one to Boeing, to Airbus. We cover defence and aftermarket businesses. And recently we've invested further in our global footprint by acquiring sites in Morocco. Our Spirit Casablanca site is strategically significant for us. It brings a highly competitive cost base, a very skilled workforce. It gives us access to a very strong ecosystem, and it also logistically places us well for our customers in the UK and Europe, and also other routes around the world. We see it as being a really strategic initiative for us to further expand into Morocco and grow relationships with the ecosystem. I'd really recommend doing business in Morocco. We've found the government to be very supportive and always been there to help us achieve our strategic goals. I look forward to meeting many of you and doing business in the ecosystem in Morocco in the coming months and years. Hopefully we will meet soon. Stay safe and thank you.
So, we are delighted to welcome Mr. Stéphane Orr, the Director for Spirit Morocco, as well Karim Fada. We will hear from Mr. Raouf Mastarfin from the EOR Group. But Honourable Minister, first could you explain a bit more about this recipe for success that has allowed Morocco to be on the radar of key industry players? Well, you must know that this sector is not just, the competition is not just on cost, but it's also about quality and timely delivery. If you can't produce quality with at very high level of requirements, these processes are extremely heavy, you will not be able to enter the closed circle of aeronautics. And Morocco has managed, as presented earlier, over the last 20 years, step by step, to enter this really closed circle. When it comes to quality, human resources is the heart of the battle. And as presented, we have focused heavily over many years on training, and we have moved up market for competences. We've upskilled and showcased the high quality of the Moroccan workforce, who are fully capable of being on the front line and delivering. You also have the agreements that we have concluded with a certain number of important partners where the state makes an effort to support these operations. And in the early noughties, there was the creation of MATIS between Boeing and Royal Air Maroc with government support. And over time, we have seen flourish a certain number of industries in this sector. With the arrival, of course, of Bombardier, which has now been taken over by Spirit. And I'd like to congratulate our friends who are here today. But we have also around these ecosystems with a very structured approach, where you have engines for each ecosystem, as Mr. Ben Brahim said, a little flotilla of companies following in their wake. I believe Morocco clearly deserves the fact that it is today a player in the market. Every plane flying today has at least one part made in Morocco, and Morocco is now a credible long-term player on the world stage, and the future is wide open before us. Everything that had been built step by step, where decisions take dozens of years to be deployed. And today we are amongst these world players, and we aspire to go even higher.
Eh bien, aujourd'hui, nous sommes parmi ces players mondiaux et nous aspirons à aller bien au-delà. Nous n'allons pas nous arrêter là.
So, Honorable Minister, I would like to give the floor now to one of these private sector, Mr. Raouf Moustarcine. You are the director of We Are Group, EFOA, for whom the keyword is integration. Could you tell us more? Good morning. My name is Moustarcine. I manage the We Are Group. When I started off, I was able to start a company with 2 people at a time when the sector was a bit opaque and closed, and I had to display extreme professionalism and high added value. And in 2013, we went up market and an upskill, and we had 60 people. And now in 2020, we have 100 employees. We are focusing on 5 trades: surface treatment, online, machining, metal bashing, and we are looking at surface treatment lines, the inception, design, and construction of surface treatment lines.
C'est-à-dire on peut l'étude, la fabrication et l'accompagnement des entreprises qui opèrent dans le traitement de surface. Voilà.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Mr. Orr, President of Spirit Morocco, for whom integration is important, and you've also made a big bet on the high skill set of Morocco.
Why have Spirit been so keen to take over from Bombardier? I've had the pleasure to be here for 7 years and see how we have progressed in the ecosystem ourselves. Why they're so keen, I'll answer at the very end, but they're keen not to just take over, but they're keen to rapidly expand the site. The reason for that is they see an extremely strong partnership with the government, with the minister, with Ali, Madame Afaf, and it's a partnership that has, as I have seen it, never faltered over the 7 years that we have been here. Then we have the organization like GMAS with Karim, which is a grouping of all of the local suppliers who are here within Morocco, the 142 that we have seen. And GMAS work with us and work with everybody to try and make them more competitive in terms of what they do. Hamid has talked about IMA, so Spirit will ask me, okay, we want to grow this site rapidly. Can you get the people? Can you get the employees? The answer is most definitely yes. There's a fantastic system in EMA. They are forming their young people, and they're also now looking to develop the middle management sector as well for us, which is great. Then we move to the other people you've heard from, which are the local suppliers, because certainly it would be Spirit's ambition to at least source 40% of everything we make locally. It makes a lot of sense. It's cost effective and it's local, so we don't have all of the supply chain to deal with. And then we come back to ourselves and the employees inside of Spirit Aerosystems. The employees that I've seen join the company, that I've seen progress, like you've heard this morning from other employees. And it's fantastic to see. And apart from me, the company is 100% Moroccan. So Spirit have a huge plan of acceleration for the site. We have just completed a 15,000 square meter extension, and we didn't build that so that we could leave it empty. We built it so we could fill it. And the answer to the question in terms of why does Spirit want to take over for what Bombardier had built and why do they want to rapidly grow the site, the answer is quite simple. It will effectively make them more competitive on the world stage.
How do you feel, Mr. Minister? Well, I'm delighted to hear this. If my memory serves me well, some of the media may have considered that it was the end of Bombardier and that it was the end of aeronautics industry in Morocco, but this clearly shows Spirit has taken over Bombardier and decided to double capacity in Morocco, triple. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stefan. You're even more aggressive than me. So some were talking about a closure, now we're talking about tripling the area. So it's quite extraordinary. And this type of activity, we shouldn't go too fast. We have to be cautious, but you have to work hard and speak very little. Not focus on complicated plans. We have not been helped by all the rumors on the market explaining that this company was disappearing. We created problems for them, say in general, and who have said, all those who have said negative things have created problems for the staff who didn't know if their jobs were secure or not. But today, Spirit is taking over and tripling the factory floor surface. That's my takeaway. Yes, it's quite an indicator for the future when we'll return to this later. We've just heard now about the importance of a high quality skill set. Yes, indeed. NGMA is the contraction of NG from engineering and MA for Morocco. And before I present NGMA as an engineering consultant for aeronautics and automotive industry, it's mostly about passion. The four founding engineers were all trained by state engineering schools, and we started our career in the first consulting office, and then we worked with for Safran, with a company which is now called Safran Engineering Services. NGMA is now a Moroccan SME, and we focus on 3D trades, metronomy, metrology, and 3D printing. And this experience that I wanted to share is that NGMA emerged. It's because of four key factors. First, the industrial development of Morocco. As engineers, it was our opportunity for us to work with Safran, and NGMA has developed aeronautic activities in the first 6 months, it's very close to our heart, and we have an expertise. And if we've had customers who were able to trust us, it's because Morocco has attracted international companies which settled it in Morocco. Morocco. That is the first factor. The second factor is that we are all founding members, a product of the state schools, which has allowed us to launch this adventure. And we continue to recruit engineers trained in state schools. And because of their high flexibility, we were able to launch new trades in the industry with very high added value. The third context is the entrepreneurial context. If we were able to launch our companies without a lot of finances, we just had our expertise and our experience and how serious we were. And I believe everybody can succeed with this, and young engineers can launch their own companies without having any kind of particular privileges. And the fourth and far from least point is the development of engineering in Morocco. And I found that in adding engineering to the ecosystems was particularly clever. And not only does this allow a higher integration rate, but also anchors it in Morocco. If a sector arrives in a country where you might not have some roots, then you're competing only on cost, but Morocco doesn't. It competes also on quality. Now, if we want to it's companies like Njima to grow, to create more jobs, to create subsidiaries abroad, then we need to further develop engineering, and this has been proved. We have the capacity, we have the certification, we have high quality services, and the development will provide the opportunity for young people to develop further and to develop further. And yes, the snake will be biting its tail as you are now recruiting these highly competent young people from different Moroccan engineering schools. Thank you, Mrs. Houda Farah from Njima. We will now focus on how the aeronautical ecosystem responded to the COVID crisis with many challenges to address, but also opportunities to make the most of.
Opportunités à saisir. On se retrouve tout de suite.
We are delighted to welcome Badr Jafar, the General Director of SERMP for the LPF Group, and Mr. Saïd Ben Hajou, the General Director of Aviral and Vice President of the Innovation and Collaboration Cluster. I'd like to return quickly to the President of the GMAS. How did the integration of the ecosystem respond to the COVID situation? Well, what you need to know is that before the pandemic, we had a lot of pressure from our customers, and we continued to work in the early pandemic. First, focus on production, but also on health. And we implemented social distancing, masks, hydroalcoholic gels, social distancing, which required 1 or 2 days of organization, but we continued to work. Then, our participation to the Kingdom's response. We have Mr. Raouf Moustassin, who produced shoe disinfectant machines. We also built some infrared thermometers. But beyond this, we also mobilized in the sector to participate in the management of the pandemic. The artificial respirators, to which we will return in a bit. There was a continuity in our activities because we had to generate some stock, but we also participated in the management of this pandemic, and we were able to reduce the number of infections.
La continuité de nos activités pour l'aéronautique parce qu'il fallait, on avait du stock à faire, donc on avait continué à produire, et en même temps on a participé à la gestion de cette pandémie. Et les mesures qui ont été mises en place, nous avons, alhamdoulilah, déploré très peu de cas de contamination.
Yes, there was very high mobilization. We will hear from Ali Siddiqui, General Director in charge of Industry. And the ministry played a crucial role here, working to put out two fires.
Quasiment deux fronts à gérer en parallèle.
Well, under the instructions of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, that we need to mobilize the strength, all the strength of the nation in response to this COVID. You might recall that MIT had designed a small ventilator in an open source format. So we mobilized the OMPT, which in 10 days we did a proof of concept in just 10 days because of this rich human capital in Morocco. But we went further. We wanted to design a new respirator at the highest and most demanding standards, only with products immediately sourceable in Morocco to avoid any disruption. So we had to focus on the highest performing human capital, which is to be found in the aeronautical industry, which has even higher requirements than the medical standards. And around the Professor Farouni, who is an A&E doctor and an specialist on respiratory syndrome. So we worked on a record delay to produce 500 respirators, heavy respirators, for intensive care unit, and this was done over a very short period of time to produce at the highest quality possible. And this was a first experiment, which was very much a success. These respirators are built at the highest level. We have ISO 13495, which are required for industrial medical equipment, which clearly shows that the quality of our high-performing human capital. Well, you might all recall the disruption, the lack of masks, and very quickly Morocco was able to plug a hole with a mask, but we were also able to produce the machine tools required to create mask manufacturing machines. So first, when we wanted to create these masks, we had to import machines from China, but they were out of stock across the world. So in the third stage, and this is again to highlight the high quality of the human capital, we built our own machines to make our own masks. This is quite extraordinary what these Moroccan engineers did, and the Moroccan skill set is absolutely fantastic. We built a machine from scratch, locally, with local competences, specifically from the aeronautical industry, but also from the automotive sector. But I don't believe that people understand how many parts and components are necessary to make these machines, and this clearly shows the high skill set of the Moroccan workforce.
Je pense que beaucoup de gens ne se rendent pas compte du nombre de pièces et de composants qui structurent des machines-outils de cette qualité-là. Eh bien, nous étions en mesure de le faire. Et ça démontre encore, une fois de plus, les compétences de notre capital humain et de nos ingénieurs de ces secteurs de pointe.
On va effectivement s'intéresser.
Yes, indeed, we will return to these two examples. We'll hear now from Badar Jafar, General Director of SERMP. You build technological components for the aeronautic industry. How did you manage from one day to the next to produce these respirators? Well, thank you. SCRMP, as I said, is a company which builds mostly for the engines and landing gear and the jet cells for the aeronautic industry. So we have a very high-tech, cutting-edge machinery. So in the wake of the COVID crisis, we started focusing on what was happening abroad. We saw there was quite of ruptures in the provisions of medical equipment, in particular respirators. So we thought that we could work together with other aeronautical and automotive sectors to create a new respirator in response to the pandemic and participate in this national effort. So this started from a small idea which was encouraged by the Ministry of Trade. We created a collective with Aviarai, avec Creuset and Tronico and Tangiers. So we felt that everybody was mobilized for this. And what's interesting to note is that we discovered, as a country, we discovered the strength and the competences that we had within our ecosystem. We were all focused on the production of our own parts, but then all of a sudden we gathered around our product and we were able to develop this together. This was a fantastic and really rich experience. And to my mind, the most interesting is that we were able to not only meet expectations, but also exceed expectations. And we have a fully functioning respirator with a lot of electronic equipment, and this was an amazing experience. And it has we're still in it. We've moved from I'm talking about SCRMP. We were focusing only parts for the aeronautic industry, and now we produce medical parts.
Et ça nous a permis, ça, je pense qu'on est en plein dedans, parce qu'aujourd'hui, on bascule d'une machine, je parle du cas de SRMP, d'une usine qui fabrique que des pièces avions 100%, à une usine maintenant qui est certifiée médicale.
That's what you call leaving your comfort zone, isn't it? Well, you're with your neighbor, director of Aviarai, you also contributed to the production of these respirators, but also for these machine tools. Looking back, what lessons have you learned?
Well, pour la fabrication de masques, avec le recul, quel enseignement vous tirez de cette expérience?
Je dirais que
I would say I'm not surprised, because really I've been working in Morocco now for 10 years, and quality has always been a main focus of mine. And COVID, through these respirators or these machine tools, was only a revelator of all the competences that already exist in Morocco. And this type of success should not be an exception anymore, but should be normal, because there's much happening in universities, in startups, in SMEs. There is so much innovation, at least as important as what happened with the respirators. And you can see it in the exports of Morocco every year under with the support of the Ministry of Industry. We have 10 startups in the Morocco Aerospace cluster, which are present at the Consumer Electronics Show in CES in Las Vegas. So this, to my mind, this was just a revelation, and we have to build on this success. And bearing in mind that we are from a cutting-edge sector, that of aeronautics, and that we have all where you have really demanding requirements. And if we can do this in Morocco, I believe we could do so much more and even better performing than what was done on with the respirators. And that today, I believe that this action must not just be an isolated action on a specific time. with the ministry support, which I'd like to thank, we created the MMI cluster, which is a medical cluster which gathers all the different actors who participated to the realization of these products, and other products have also been produced, patents have been filed, and we'll continue to bring together academia, R&D, ministry to continue to develop the medical, and maybe in 10 years we will be celebrating a history of fantastic success.
Pour continuer autour de l'industrie du médical et pourquoi pas dans 10 ans revenir ici avec de grandes réussites autour du médical.
Avant d'écouter Monsieur le ministre.
Before we go back to the Honourable Minister, a quick question which pops in my mind. What was the purpose? Was it to still do business in this context, creating these new machines? For SCRMP, that was not the case. What was the purpose then? It was pure citizenship. No, it's just to say that in Morocco we can produce respirators if we needed them. If we ran out of them, we were capable of doing it. That to me was, as Badero said, it was pure citizen motivation. We could not just do nothing, knowing that all the competences, bearing in mind all the competences that we had. So when we hear this, well, what should we think? Is that it's impossible until we actually do it? Well, then when I hear these Moroccan engineers, I don't know what to say. I'm still gathering my thoughts here. It was a very intense period for me. Many responsibilities, and we had very clear directives from His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, and we did not know where we were going. We didn't know where this pandemic would take us. We tried to organize a response for masks. As you can all recall, we started from scratch. And today we produce more than 20 million masks. We have many factories which are very well equipped with machine tools designed and made in Morocco. And now they're stopped because we produce so many masks. We have worked with the open source model on the MIT model, which was quite a revelation. And the Telecoms Institute designed it in a few days, and we said, why not take it further? I believe this is very important, and that for us as Moroccans, we need to be aware of our national wealth. Sometimes it happens, luckily not always, but we sometimes tend to underestimate our immaterial or human capital, as His Majesty has said. When this pandemic struck, we turned to the aeronautics sector. Could we do better? And I want to bear witness to this because it's very important. These engineers committed themselves by our side with the Ministry of Health around the medical team to supervise everything. And they worked night and day. They never stopped. They worked night and day. And all Moroccans rolled up their sleeves. And I would like to focus quickly on what happened in aeronautics. Today we're celebrating aeronautics, so it's the perfect opportunity. These people worked in response to the call by His Majesty. It wasn't about finance. It wasn't about gain. And I will tell you a secret today. They invested more than 8 million dirhams, just almost $900,000, just to raise the Moroccan flag. And I offered to refund this money because there were delays in certification, and they refused this refund. If they had done it for the money, would they have refused this refund to get back their investment? So I insist that we recognize that Moroccans are very proud and can work for the nation, the greater good of the nation, and not just for money. We have high quality actors in all sectors, to speak of other sectors than aeronautics, and I will fight with the last drop of my blood to defend these people. I do not accept that in these such difficult times that I committed people and effort, and then let people say that this is for business, that it was done for money, respirators for money. These Moroccans are not like that. When there is a call by His Majesty, we gather all together behind His Majesty and roll up our sleeves. These people have done an exceptional job, and I am personally grateful. And when they decided to not be refunded and to continue to fight and to wait patiently for the public services to certify their equipment and to continue to fight on the international scene, I will be by their side with the last drop of my blood. They deserve a great round of applause. Well, with such a mindset, clearly the aeronautical industry has a bright future and will continue to build on investment, both human and physical. For the industry actors, they are very positive. Let's hear from Christophe Delcade, General Director of Space Aero. We are convinced that commercial transport will recover, supported by the reopening of travel and the borders, but in different modalities. We have identified new and existing challenges to adapt to this recovery. Short term, the main challenge is the adaptation of the supply chain to respond to cost pressures while maintaining the skills-based and, of course, quality and security. And this is important. There will be adaptations, and we need still to maintain key competences. Digital transformation, which will accelerate as it will provide us with the ability to be even more competitive and more agile and reduce our product cycle. When it comes to the midterm challenges, I think of environmental performance as the carbon footprint is very important. The supply chain will have to be exemplary as it has been and is on industrial organization, and it must take on board the best environmental performance standards, 1401 ISO, through competitivity. And we will also need to focus on resilience and sovereignty, have a better, more resilient supply chain. The crisis that we know is unique, but the aerospace industry has had many crises. So we will need to secure production and supplies. I think we'll speak more of co-localization rather than delocalization. Competitive co-localization rather than relocalization. And I believe that I have a lot of trust in the Moroccan ecosystems for it to recover. The model in Morocco is very competitive, will suffer from the same issues and will have to provide answers to the challenges that I mentioned. But Morocco has clearly shown over the last 15 years that they can source the talents and the performance in Morocco that have performed at an extremely high level and will allow this ecosystem to respond and address these challenges and be in a good position to make the most of this recovery.
Cet écosystème de relever ces challenges futurs et d'être en bonne position pour ce rebond et accompagner ce rebond de l'industrie aéronautique.
Alors, si je comprends bien, Monsieur le Ministre,
if I understand clearly, Mr. Minister, beyond the turbulent air we've just been going through over the year 2020, and has had a bit of an effect on 2021 and seemed to be clearing, in the aeronautical industry, you have to look to the future, and both the mid and long term is.
Vous avez tout à fait raison.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We need to start with where we stand today, and I think it's important to take stock and look at the state of play and take stock of the 20 years and the results that we've had from these 20 years of efforts. And since 2016, Morocco is first in the African continent in aeronautics, ahead of South Africa. And I think that we should from time to time take stock and examine where we are. We are African leaders in aeronautics. Indeed, the pandemic has had an important impact, with 80% of commercial transport stopped. Recovery is still very timid. Many questions remain. Nonetheless, we can say that the big customers are asking themselves very important questions. They're taking stock, they're shedding fat when they can, and maybe do a bit more sport than when they can, so that they're ready for the recovery. And Morocco, as we can see in the figures, was not as impacted as other countries. And today, when we hear what is happening in engineering, or what the key international players reach out to us and say we are very surprised by how much Morocco has progressed. We're very we find the quality of your human resources and the delivery capacity to be very interesting. We are surprised by the short delays and your capacity to adapt, which is very impressive. And this leads us to be quite optimistic about the future. I have some information that some of the people here in the room are aware of, but their big, very big customers have taken strategic decisions. I will not say anything I just wanted to reassure other people in the know in the room, but big decisions were made during the pandemic, and we expect in a few months strategic announcements to be made. And this is the fruit of a lot of work that was done, of trust in the Moroccan destination, and the focus on practical results. Everything that was promised was delivered. When you have, for example, Mid-Park, which is it's at the highest international level, when companies come and arrive and can be operational in a few days, this is extremely rare in the world. When Moroccan logistics are there, when vocational training is there, when engineering competence is as pushed as it is in Morocco, and when engineers participate in building engines and propulsion system, people admire Morocco and say, yes, you are now a recognized player. I can only be happy with this result and proud of the result our country has achieved. This is a battle that we've won. We have not yet won the war, but therefore we need to invest now for it to bear fruit in 5-10 years. The investments of 5-10 years ago are bearing results today. An order has been placed for $1 billion for spare parts per year. This is very important. We have suppliers which had never been referenced to Boeing before, and they came to Morocco and they became referenced for Boeing. So we're clearly establishing Morocco as a player on the world stage. Morocco is interesting, doesn't mean we should rest on our laurels. Our work will never be finished, and once we've turned a page, we'll have to write a new one. But in the aeronautic industry, we have beautiful pages to write in the coming future.
Une fois qu'on aura tourné une page, eh bien, il faudra en écrire une nouvelle. Et dans le secteur aéronautique, nous avons de superbes pages à écrire pour les années à venir.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you very much, Minister, for this very optimistic message. I'd like to continue speaking about the future with the ecosystem for whom, and we'd like to hear now from a private sector actor, for whom the future lies in diversification and integration. For the president of Excel Corporation, is the world leader in high-performance composite materials, mainly for the aeronautic markets. The most modern planes, like the Boeing 787 or the Airbus A350, use more than 50% of composite materials in their structure. These materials, by their lightness and their resistance, make it possible to reduce the weight of the aircrafts. Composites therefore lead to significant fuel savings, with a significant reduction in CO2 emissions, and contribute to improving the climate and therefore our planet. Excel has invested more than $20 million in the heart of the Moroccan aeronautical system within Mid-Park in Casablanca in the construction of a 20,000 square meter factory for the manufacture of machine parts based on honeycomb, such as, for example, this one behind me. With 120 motivated, highly qualified employees, both managers and engineers, as well as operators who have been trained at the AIMA Institute of Aeronautic Trades, Hexcel now has a competitive manufacturing site which can meet the very demanding requirements of our customer. The support of the Moroccan state within the framework of the Industrial Acceleration Plan, the quality and training of the Moroccan workforce, the aeronautical ecosystem in Morocco with the presence of our main customers have been very important factors crucial to our success. A very successful implementation, which, despite the COVID-19, has led us to prepare, as of now, an extension of our factory to double this factory size with an investment of around $25 million and 200 new jobs. I look forward to seeing you in Casablanca, inshallah.
Et plus de 200 nouveaux emplois. À très bientôt donc à Casablanca pour le lancement de ce projet. Inshallah.
Inshallah, God willing, we will indeed continue to explore the future of the Moroccan industry in its different perspectives, in particular the challenges to which it is confronted when it comes to decarbonification and R&D and development of Moroccan entrepreneurship and, of course, vocational training. I'd like to hear now from Karim Sheikh. Sheikh, you are president of the GMAS. How's the future looking for you? When it comes to the future, we have the same perspectives as the Ministry of Industry. I just wanted to highlight that for the first time, we've seen the emergence of two simultaneous events. Crisis, which has hit commercial transport and all the broader ecosystem, but also the strong will for developing disruptive technology. We speak of decarbonification, we speak of Industry 4.0, we speak of digitalization and applied R&D. The technological race in aeronautics is never ending. We want clearly to preserve our ranking and position in this market. So therefore, we will focus on very important strategic sectors, and we have no choice but to focus on these challenges. So we have to choose where we focus our efforts, and we have a certain number of priorities. The first is composites. We heard from Hexcel, the world leader. We have thrust reversers built in Safran. We have Aerostructure in Stelia, and more. The second area is propulsion. We speak of green planes, maybe means launching R&D programs in engineering and for green inception and green production. When it comes to propulsion systems, we have made much progress in the tests of the engines, and we have important investments in a factory by Le Piston Français, which focuses on jet engines. Engines represent 25 to 30% of the cost of an airplane and have 20-odd thousand parts. We do complicated, high-requirement parts, but not all of them. So we need to develop the possibility to build hydrogen or hybrid propulsion. And the third point is RMO, repair and maintenance, which is a historic trade through the operations of Royal Air Maroc for the maintenance of engines through Safran, with painting, with Air France Industry for aircraft maintenance. And we have an important geostrategical position where we can serve both the European and the African fleet. The fourth point, to work on the regeneration. I've spoken of decarbonification, digitalization of industrial process, and when you see what we did over the course of the pandemic, it was a quantum leap forward. It was really incredible. But we still have much to do.
Les activités de l'ingénierie parce qu'on a des ressources qui sont de grande qualité. Je terminerai pour la décarbonation, j'en ai parlé. On se doit de le faire pour décarboner nos industries. Et puis la digitalisation de nos procédés industriels. Et quand on voit ce qu'on a fait pendant la pandémie en matière de digitalisation, mais on a fait un saut énorme de ce qui a été fait. Voilà, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, nous avons encore de très très belles choses à faire.
Effectivement, capitaliser sur ce qui a été fait.
Yes, building on what's been done during the crisis to continue to keep moving forward. And the transition, and it allows me to segue into our next guest, Mr. Adil Jalali, Vice President for Maintenance at Royal Air Maroc, and the President of the UM6P Polytechnic University. Adil Jalali, VP in Engineering Maintenance at RAM. The future focuses on the potential for the MRO, maintenance and revision operations. Yes, this was created with Royal Air Maroc and provided airplane equipment at the end of the 90s, and with the growth upscales in the world trade, they decided they have entrusted RAM and the wider Moroccan competences and created subsidiaries such as Safran, Air France Industry, and leaders in the paint. This is a very interesting sector, as is highly regulated and requires very sharp human skill sets. It is a very promising sector because it provides a lot of jobs and an opportunity for competence to shine. In response to industry needs and in collaboration, in partnership with the Minister of Industry, the IAP has provided for the emergence of about 10 companies focusing on the repair, the maintenance of seats, and industrial disinfection, metrology, and non-destructive testing, which has created a move in upskilling and a move up market. And yes, there is clearly a pre and after COVID, but COVID has allowed us to widen our perspectives, our horizons of prospections, and we have also new opportunities for the dismantling and storage of planes. And given Morocco's geostrategical position, could provide them with distinct advantages in these small sectors, but with high added value. And furthermore, the opportunity to create a logistical hub for parts. Because of its geostrategical position, Morocco could generate a very high added value on parts, aeronautical parts, from the storage and dismantling of planes.
Peut générer une forte valeur ajoutée en termes d'échange de pièces aéronautiques qui peuvent découler de démantèlement ou du stockage d'avions.
Thank you very much, Adil Jalami. The expertise, competence, but also R&D. And this role is very Mr. President of the UM6B, you signed yesterday only a convention. How can a university such as yours contribute to the acceleration and the emergence of the competences in such a competitive environment? Good afternoon, everybody. As was said, the key word is human capital, human resources. And Morocco's strength in engineering, in design, and in support of this development, the UM6B Polytechnic University provides a R&D ecosystem, a cutting-edge R&D sector in support of the aeronautics sector. We focus on Industry 4.0, decarbonization. When it comes to sensors, we're also working on materials to make lighter planes, aerodynamics and propulsion and green hydrogen. This is a key sector for Morocco, and Morocco has an important role to play in this sector, and we have launched a hydrogen-based research center which generates a lot of data. And to make the most of this data, we decided to purchase a massive, the most important data center in Morocco, with the fastest supercomputer in Africa, with 3 million billion operations per second that can support all this data and allow the aeronautics ecosystem to go even further in this research.
Par seconde, et tout ça pour pouvoir accompagner toute cette génération de data et permettre à l'écosystème aéronautique d'aller encore plus loin dans cette recherche et développement.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. President of the UM6B. As you mentioned, the importance of R&D in this cutting-edge sector. The future of the aeronautical sector also needs to focus on high added value sectors such as propulsion. This is Thomas Corbell, the CEO.
On l'écoute et on se retrouve juste après pour le mot de fin.
With LPF Casablanca, we are building up our presence in Morocco and are completing our offer on metal parts. In Morocco, we focus on civilian parts for Rolls-Royce and Pratt & Whitney, but also for Safran. We are developing developing the vertical integration, especially for the end of range, specifically as the parts for engines are in hard metal and must be made at very high requirement. They need to be coated. So we therefore focus on thermal treatment, plasma projection, and other techniques. So we would like to integrate these procedures in France and in Morocco. And in Morocco, we've been working hand in glove with the Ministry of Industry and our Moroccan partners to create a specialized factory. The objective is to enjoy these processes internally, to become more autonomous, to reduce our product cycles, and reduce, of course, the carbon costs of transferring parts from one site to another. Over the last 20 years in Morocco, we've been producing aeronautical parts for engines, but not just engines, as we also have customers such as Safran on equipment, but we make also parts for the equipment. With our new site in Casablanca, we have decided to focus on engine parts, and the novelty here is to be able to have won contracts with Rolls-Royce and finalizing contracts with Pratt & Whitney while maintaining our historical customer Safran. Over the last 20 years, we have built more different parts, but we see over the next coming years, the development of the propulsion systems. We heard a lot of new technologies that should be emerging, hydrogen engines, and changes in material in the engines, but our production in units in Morocco would put us in a very good position to be able to address these challenges and the opportunities that will arise in the recovery.
Nous serons bien armés pour répondre à toutes les opportunités qui se présenteront à nous dans les prochaines années.
Honorable Minister, much has been said, and it is now your responsibility to conclude this industry meet, this celebration of the aeronautics industry, as you said. But of all we've heard from the beginning, I believe the takeaway is to focus on the future and growth. Is that correct? Absolutely. This is absolutely correct. Thanks to the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, we must be very clear. Nothing would have happened without royal support. He has been at every stage extremely supportive when nobody outside of Morocco believed in it. Nobody believed that Morocco could build an aeronautic industry. Nobody outside of Morocco would believe it. And everybody thought that Morocco still had to grow and that Morocco could never join this exclusive circle. But thanks to this vision, thanks to perseverance, as we have seen in other sectors, a lot of people thought this was only for rich countries, renewables, for example. Without this renewables and this investment in renewables, Morocco would be a completely different situation. Today we can have this plug and play because we produce locally, and we can this can help to reduce the carbon footprint of Moroccan companies. And today, the world will not accept parts with such a high carbon footprint, be it in automotive or aeronautical sectors. And because of this constant support, and every time we've had a problem, His Majesty was there to support us, and we were able to move forward. We were welcoming the company LPF, which opened a cutting-edge factory. And this is also another reason why we want to continue. Every morning when we wake up and we start our day, the private sector companies talk to us of the quality of our engineers, and this is really a high added value, which I believe is somewhat underestimated. And there is much investment coming into Morocco exclusively because of the quality of our human resources for the aeronautics industry. And this ecosystem carries a further number of sub-ecosystems, the propulsion ecosystems, the composites material ecosystem. This was unimaginable on the African continent, but is operational today. We can't go back. We have we've gone very far, much further than we expected, and our partners and our big clients are absolutely confident and sometimes even trust Morocco more than we do ourselves. And decisions are being made which will favor Morocco. We have met many people of those who spoke today. I cannot speak as freely as I would like, but we will make announcement as it goes, becomes appropriate. For Spirit, for example, we knew Spirit was taking over Bombardier, but we could not speak of it publicly. But I have specific information, I'm not the only one in this room, that certain specific operators are focusing on Morocco for multiple reasons, but mostly it's quality. We have very products which respond to the highest industry requirements. Without this quality, you will never go anywhere. The other strength is that we respect delays, and they cannot stock parts for months and months, so they are in constant flux, and you cannot make a mistake on this. And of course, we perform on cost, we perform on quality, on delays and cost. So this is these three elements are very important. But nonetheless, we still need to reduce our carbon footprint, otherwise it's all for naught. I like taking risks. I'll go out on a limb here and say that this sector is a leader in the Moroccan industry and is a standard bearer for the Moroccan industry. This sector is one of, or the standard bearer for Moroccan industry. If you can have Moroccan engineers which produce parts for jet engines, the complicated and high requirement parts, when people know this, you have nothing further to say to prove Moroccan competence. You can speak of other sectors, and you can say in the automotive industry or electronics, we build parts for engines in our country. There's no need for foreigners to say, can you do this? We can do parts for engines, so we can do anything else, as it is much more demanding. And I would like to conclude with a big bravo to all the private sector operators who every day roll up their sleeves and work in this sector. With the RAM, with Matisse, we have made extraordinary progress from the beginning of this sector. But since the inception of Matisse, Morocco has never stopped. Some countries talk the talk, Morocco walks the walk. What we have, for those who want to do like us, the recipe is very simple. Work. Welcome. Don't be jealous. Invest your energy in work, and I wish that you will be able to beat us. We are fair play. Thank you very much. We believe in fair play.
Jamais arrêter. Il y a des pays qui bavardent, il y a des pays qui travaillent. Le Maroc travaille. Et ceux qui veulent nous jalouser, je leur donne une recette qui est très simple. Travaillez comme nous. Vous allez voir, vous allez pouvoir être dans la ligue où nous sommes rentrés. Bienvenue. Au lieu de nous jalouser, mettez votre énergie dans le travail et je vous souhaite de nous battre. Il n'y a pas de problème. Nous sommes de bons joueurs. Merci.
Merci.
Thank you, Honorable Minister for Trade, Industry and the Green and Digital Economy, for attending this first industry meeting focusing on the aeronautic industry. Thank you to all those who have borne witness for this first meet, be they private or public sector, including those who were online. And this meeting, as I need to remind you, was held in fully respectfully of the social distancing imposed by the COVID. So thank you for your attention from the beginning. As the Honourable Minister has said, good news is coming, so watch this space.
Attention, Monsieur le Ministre l'a dit, d'autres bonnes nouvelles sont à venir, donc restez connectés et à très bientôt.